Good morning, everybody. Now, the Russian ruble is now backed by gold and pegged to gold. That happened a couple of weeks ago in a remarkable development that's come out of the Ukraine conflict. Of course, this is a conflict that was very easy to avoid if everyone had just got together beforehand to stop this happening. But of course, it goes on, and the longer it goes on, the more people are going to suffer. So, I would say to everybody who's involved, just sit down, de-escalate the situation, and end this thing, end the killing, and sort everything out. But what's happened here with the currencies essentially is an economic war, because the Western leaders, if you like, and regimes decided that they want to try to cripple and destroy the Russian economy for this conflict in Ukraine, which has backfired incredibly. But what Putin has done is said that he's going to peg the Russian ruble to gold at an exchange rate of 5,000 rubles per gram for the next 3 months. And so what happened immediately after the conflict, as you probably know, is that there were all these sanctions, and the value of the Russian ruble just fell off a cliff for 2 weeks. It went down from 75 rubles to the dollar to about 140 rubles to the dollar. So it lost nearly half its value. But since then, since its zenith on about the 9th of March, it has just recovered all or nearly all of the ground it's lost, and is now at 80 rubles to the dollar, just a little bit below where it was before the conflict started and the beginning of the year. And that's because it's now pegged to gold, and that puts a floor under the value of the ruble. And if he changes the peg from 5,000 to, say, 4,500 rubles per gram of gold, then the value of the ruble is going to increase even more. And what that means is actually deflationary, so prices will tend to go down in Russia because of that, whereas in the West, all the policies and the reactions to the conflict and sanctions, etc., are inflationary and are going to make prices go up, particularly energy prices, because the Western leaders have just said they're not going to buy anything from Russia if they can help it, including oil and gas. And most of the European Union is completely dependent on Russia for gas to keep the heating on in their homes and keep industry running. So they're in the situation where they're opposing the conflict quite belligerently, but they're still buying Russian gas, but they're going to have to buy that in rubles. And so the more the ruble increases, the more expensive it's going to be for European nations to purchase in an equivalent euro amount. They'll have to convert the euros to rubles first. And of course, the UK and the US will be in the same situation. UK is not so dependent on Russian gas or Russian oil, but of course that has a knock-on effect on the price of Norwegian gas because it's all tied into the bigger European energy market. And America is affected, of course, because like all European countries, it's dependent on Russia to purchase fertilizer, as is most of the world. African countries are suffering, African farmers are suffering there because the price and cost of fertilizer has gone through the roof, and they can't purchase it, easily because of these sanctions that are going on. It's had an effect on all the prices of all the commodities. So that's a very interesting situation. That what Liz Truss, the UK Foreign Secretary, said, she's very belligerent towards Russia at the beginning, still is. but what she's tried to do hasn't come to pass. The sanctions have backfired. So I don't have any rubles myself. I know a lot of people suggest that I do, but I don't. I'm just looking at things objectively and analytically and saying, for goodness sake, this is not working for the West. The positions and strategies that Western leaders have taken are backfiring on ordinary people in the West, and they need to change course, because at the end of the day, what you need to do is look after the prosperity and the security of Western citizens if you are a leader in a Western country. So you need to think about that first and foremost. Not your political or globalist positions. And the last people that tried to put a nation's currency on a gold standard, or the last person that I know of, was Colonel Gaddafi in Libya. And the globalists didn't like that. And he was taken out quite soon afterwards, well, a few years afterwards, before he could put in his plans. And also another person who had the idea of putting a country onto some kind of pegging with gold was Saddam Hussein in Iraq. Not talked about much, but he was removed as well by the Iraq War and the people behind that. So these same people, I'm sure, are gunning for Putin now, because not just because of the Ukraine conflict, but because he's put his currency on a gold standard. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this all develops and what happens in the currency markets, because there is an economic war going on just as much as there is a physical military war in Ukraine. The economic war is global. But it's not being presented to us as what's happening. But that certainly is what's happening. And, like with all wars, people make shots economically against each other, and ordinary people suffer, not through the bullet, but through inflation and through being impoverished. So we don't want that to happen if that can possibly be avoided, and we certainly don't want that to extend any further than necessary. It would be better if we could all just sit down and get back to normal relations with each other, rather than people shouting at each other and trying to destroy each other. There we go. Thanks for listening, everybody. Anyway, please do subscribe to my channel down here, and hope you have a good weekend. God bless you all.